just spilled my drink. Okay, hi. 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 Hi guys. So if you can hear me, can you give me a thumbs up and chuck those hearts at me, so just make sure it's loud and clear that you can hear me. And I'm just not looking into the camera. That's brilliant, thank you. Right, so today is part 3. Hello. Today's part 3 of the Wesley tote version 2 pattern. Hi guys. Right, so last week we got up to, well, it's about 10 days ago, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Sorry about that. I was just so snowed under with orders and that. So I love the owl cup. Yeah, Angie, I got it for my birthday last year from a friend. She knits, so she got like a knitted theme owl, because I love owls. So yeah. Right, so last week, well, 10 days ago, we got up to halfway through page 10, and we're going to take off from page 10 all the way to page a quarter of way down, 13. So if you're new to the channel, hi, I'm Becky. You've joined in on the 3rd session of the sew along of the Wesley tote bag. The pattern is a free download within the group, or if you're not used to printing out or downloading the pattern, you can actually buy a hard copy, and I will put in the description where I have the teapot. You can put in, I will put in the description where you can actually buy the pattern from, but it's just this, and this will be back to front. I do apologise, I am working on it. Yeah, so where we left off is where we made both panels of the bag. So you got like the base, the slip pocket, the handles. We showed how to put the Chicago screws in and the metal tag, and then off air I completed the other side as well. So today we are going to pop those together and sew all that together to make the outer bag, and then we're going to push that to one side, and that won't come into an effect until next week. And then today we are going to work on the inside slip pocket organisation little storage thing. There's inside zip pocket, and then I'll just talk about a new tool that has come to my light this last fortnight from a group called Bags of Difference. So it's to help you with your zip pockets inside and outside. So yeah, I will touch a little bit on this, but there will be, and I have filmed it today, a better in-depth video on how to use this. So I'm only going to use it basic today, but I will in the video go more into it, and that video will be up on my YouTube channel next week. So yeah, so going from Sally Ann's in Texas at the moment. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Right, so I'm going to pop these right sides together, and I'm going to put the camera down so you can see. Right. There is key areas you need to match up, and I will show you that now. So you've got your 2 slip pockets here on both pieces, and you'll need to match them up there at the tops, because if you don't match them up, and when you turn your bag the right way out, your one pocket could be higher than the other, and you don't want that. You don't want that, because it won't make your bag look as nice, and you don't get that with the designer bag. So it's just taking that extra bit of care of matching up the key points. I'm using Wonder Clips today, so I'm just gonna clip that bit there. And before I go any further down this one side here, I generally go over to the other side where the other slip pocket is and match up that key area. And then the other key area you need to match up is your bases parts as well. So you need to match up those. Now, if you get a bit of overhang here, don't worry, we can sort that out in a minute. If your seams don't match up, that I mean, down here, don't worry, it will all sort out. Now I've matched up that key area, we're just going to carry on clipping down this one side, matching up the raw edges. And then I'll just flip over and do that base on the other side. So making sure my base is spot on. What's the weather like where you are? Because I'll tell you something, it's dull here. I've had to put an extra studio light up today because there's not much sun out at all. Right, so now I've got both sides clipped. I'm now going to sew 3/8 of a seam allowance down both sides that I've just clipped. Now in my machine I've got a size 16 needle. I tend to generally use and only use a size 16 needle. Hi Laura. Laura, thank you for my fabric for the next sponsor of the next pattern, thank you. So I've got a size 16 needle in my actual machine, and this one's a jean needle because I've run out of leather ones. But it doesn't matter whether it's a jean or a leather one, as long as it's a size 16 needle. And I'm using Gutermann thread, sew all thread in my machine. So down these two sides I'm using a standard stitch length of a 2.4, and I'm sewing a seam. I'm sewing a seam allowance of 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimetre, depending on where you are in the world. And making sure at the start and at the end I am reversing. Now I've come to a bit of a bulky area here. Now I'm just going to bring the camera down a bit more if I can. Yep. I've got a bulky seam made here. Sometimes machines come with them for free. If not, hemline do them and stuff like that. Right, so my machine's walking foot is going up at an angle like this, and it's actually not working. It's basically not wanting to go. So I'm going to lift up the foot, pop this bit here where the needle will be at the back of the foot. Now I'm hoping you can actually see that. And then I'm just going to sew, and basically the foot isn't at an angle now, it's actually riding flat. Just sew as much as you can and then just remove that bit. That will just stop any stitches being too short, or the fact that your machine won't go over it. If you haven't got a bulky seam made, you can use a piece of cardboard rolled up, as long as you've got something that can make your foot go flat, where this, because this is where your two slip pockets meet on the outer body, so you'll need something just to make sure your foot is going flat. And at this point I do advise, if you have got a walking foot, put a walking foot on to your machine. Hi Amy. I'd say no. Now I'm actually coming to another bulky area here. So once again, you get your seam aid, your bulky seam aid, and I'm just going to sew into that bulky seam aid, like so, removing that clip, and I'm going to lift up my foot, just pop that bulky seam aid back in a bit, because I know I haven't gone over where the base joins the bag, and I know full well I've cleared that base now, so I can remove that bulky seam aid and carry on sewing, reversing my stitch at the start and at the end again. So at this point you can trim this back. I will, because I don't like bulky seams when I come to the later stage. So I'm just going to trim all that back. And if you notice, I'm using quite a large chunky pair of scissors. These are the scissors that I use for cutting back bulk, and because I know they're blunt anyway, so. And chuck that underneath the table because my bin's gone missing. Right, so I'm just going to do exactly the same on the other side. So I'll flip the bag over, and starting from the top, popping that bulky seam aid in again. And I know I've cleared it, so I can just take that out. And I'm coming to that bulky area again, so I want to sew into the seam aid this time. Move that slightly. Basically, I'm just making sure that foot is staying flat rather than it going up at an angle. And reverse a stitch. Right, so once again, I'm just going to trim back that seam. These scissors are so blunt, but they're only cheap IKEA ones. There you go. And under the table it goes. Right, so now you'll have, let's bring the camera back up. Hi. Right, so now you'll have your two side seams done, and we've just got the base to do. So same again, I'm just going to clip the base, making sure these parts match up, and sew across. Now, like I said before, if there's a bit of excess seam on excess seam allowance on one of the pieces, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that it's on both sides, you can trim it back to the other piece that is the shorter one. If you have got it unequal just on one side, you may want to trim back the excess that you've got on that side, but make sure both squares, your pommy squares on your bottom corners, are still measuring exactly the same as each other. You just got to make sure they measure the same, or else your boxy bottoms will be, you'll have one side wider than the other, and your bag won't sit well when you've actually got it on the floor. So yeah, I'm just going to point the camera back down. Okay. Right, so I know my I know my seams are correct, so I'm just going to clip it and then sew 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now this one I won't be trimming back because the base does take a lot of heavy stuff that you carry around and you want it just there for an extra security. You can also do an extra 2 lines of stitching if you want to make it even more stronger. So if you're going to do that, you'll stitch 1 line at the 3/8 and then 1 possibly at 1/4 of an inch away from the actual side, if you're not trusting your machine. But if you've kept to a decent stitch length when sewing your bag together, it should be fine with 1 row of stitching. Right, so now I've got the seam allowance sewn there. We need to open up this, and when we open it up, the side seam of the bag here will match the base seam. So if you bring those two together, and I'm just going to open it up a bit more, that's it. So we're going to match up this side seam here and the base center seam. Now if you're a quilter, when you put you nest your seams, so 1 seam can go the other way and 1 seam will go the other way. If you want to do that with the bag, you can, or you can open up the seams, but because I've trimmed back the bulk here, I'm just going to nest the seams. So if you'll notice here, this seam's going this way and this seam I'm pushing that way. Now before I actually sew this, I always get my hand up inside the bag and make sure I've got no creases in this area here and this area here, because once you've sewn it, and because it's PU, we don't want to actually have to resew it again. So now you need to push it really flat when you actually sew it. So you'll do a flat shape, and then we'll just put it underneath the actual presser foot. Keep checking underneath that you've got no other anything else and you're pushing out the bag out the way, so it's basically just that seam you've got going underneath the foot. Using the same stitch length, but remember to reverse your stitches at the start and at the end. And because I've gone over the seam, I'm just going to reverse that seam, reverse my stitch over that seam as well. And then you have a neat end. Now if I'm not seeing any of your questions, don't worry about it. Once again, like I always say, I will actually answer any questions off air later on, or if my administrators are in here and they can answer any of the questions, they will answer for me, sorry. So we're just going to do the other side. Now you need to pull the bag apart a bit, and then obviously match up those 2 seams, nest them together, and then obviously clip either side, and then I'm just going to sew across this, making sure everything's out the way underneath as well, so there's nothing underneath here just apart from what I need to sew. I can tell, right? So I haven't cleaned out my machine for 3 or 4 months, and this morning I cleaned it out and she's going so much quieter. So yeah, my advice is to make sure you clean out your machine quite regularly. Now I just realised I didn't go over that bit a few times, so I'm just going to go back and just give it another quick go over. That's just for reinforcement. Right, so some bags, they say trim this off, or trim this back. I say on the pattern, it's up to you, but I'm not going to trim it back, for the simple reason is because when we open up the bag and turn it right side facing out, which I'll do now, it will make the bag base sit a lot better when we start pushing out the corners. So we're going to push out the corners. Okay. And then roll the bag out. Now at this point, if the bag's creased, don't worry about it, because it will get more creased when we actually turn out the bag at the final stage. So that's the outer bag finished. As you can see, it's all right as it is. Let's just tilt you up a bit. It's all right as it is, but obviously because you've got the fusible fleece and it's a bit raw inside, it's not a finished bag yet. So this part now, we will leave until next week. And because we need to make part of the lining today. So yeah, I'm just going to put this down here. I'm in the process of my leather studio's going. I'm going to put it out there. I'm not going to be working with much leather anymore, because my business is Sue, saying is everybody been able to watch this? Because Sue's just said it's telling her the live video's ended. Is everybody else finding that it's running? Yeah, right, okay. Right, thanks. So my leather business is slowly coming to an end, because there is a lot of bag makers out there now touching on leather. So my studio down at my parents' is now going to become my main filming place and my packing and storage area. So yeah, over the next few months you'll see slowly my lives will be going into a different area, and the area will be a lot bigger, and fingers crossed I have a new camera and an overhead camera so you can actually see. I'm hoping you can see me. Yeah, right. So yeah, you'll see a bit of a change over the next month, a couple of months, so don't worry, it is all happening. But the leather studio, I will be still teaching you a bit of leather, as I will be keeping a bit of the leather stuff, and I'm keeping my big massive workbench so I can teach you how to hand sew leather. But I'm getting rid of all my industrial machines and stuff like that. So yeah, things are changing fast and I'm not keeping up with the space. So yeah, I'm just explaining as I go along, because I don't want it to be a culture shock when you say, oh, can you show us how to make a leather bag? I can show you how to make it, but it will be over an 8-week process, because it'll be all hand stitched. So yeah. Anyway, enough of the blabber. I'm going to get on to making the lining. So you know how we cut out the 2 boxes on the base part? You need to do that on your lining. Now I've actually gone ahead and done that. So you need to cut those bits out. It's 2 inches, like I state in the pattern. So yeah, you'll need to cut out your 2 inches on both pieces of fabric. I've also interfaced these. Now I've run out of buckram. I've actually got an alternative coming to test, so which is a lighter weight woven fabric. So but if you can, use buckram. If not, medium weight non-woven interfacing is okay. So you need to interface both of those pieces. The only piece that you won't interface is the zip pocket. So your zip pocket won't be interfaced. It's just going to reduce bulk at a later stage. And you'll need to interface both of your slip pockets. So we're going to move on to the slip pockets. So you'll have a large slip pocket, which is interfaced, and a smaller pocket, which is interfaced, slip pocket that's interfaced. And once again, I've just used non-woven medium weight interfacing. God, that's such a tongue twister. You know when you're typing out, well, I've been typing out some patterns recently, and I'll tell you something, I've just been copy and pasting because it's just such a long-winded woven interfacing and all that, like, just things repeat. So yeah, so we're going to start off with the larger one, popping it right sides together, bring it down, and again, there you go. We're going to pop it right sides together, and so you'll have a fold at the top, and obviously you've got your 3 raw sides. So you need to clip down this one side, or pin. Just because I'm lazy doesn't mean you have to be if you don't want to. Clip down the other side. Right, so on the bottom edge, I don't normally have to do this, but if you're still new to this, if you can get a marking tool. Right, so if you get a marking tool, and you need to leave a turning gap. So I'm actually just putting 2 marks, and it's about 4 inches wide that I'm leaving here. So I'm going to start sewing from this folded edge here, down this side here, pivot on this corner, and then stop sewing at this first mark here. Then I'm going to lift up my foot, and then start sewing from this mark here to this corner, and then back up to the folded edge. And now I'm keeping it at a stitch length 2.4 because we have to turn it the right side facing out. And that's what that gap is for. That's your turning gap of this slip pocket. And now I've lifted up my foot, and I'm just moving over to that next mark. Make sure you reverse your stitches at those 2 marks, because it will take a bit of force when we turn it, and if you haven't reversed your stitches at those 2 marks, it means that the stitching will come undone, and it'll be just a waste then, because then you'll have to turn it back and then go over those stitching again. Right, so now I've done that, first of all I need to trim off the 2 corners, so I'm just going off at an angle like so. So you've got these 2 bits cut, And then what I tend to do is, I'm hoping you can see this, but where that one mark is, I taper in and I'm just cutting back to 1/8 of an inch away from the sewn line. I do that on both sides. So because I'm keeping that bit there, this is the bit that gets tucked up inside. It gets tucked up inside once we've turned the pocket the right way out. And I'm just going to trim down the two sides now. Right, and just put that underneath the table, the rubbish. Right, so my pokey tool is a chopstick from the Chinese. Right, so we're going to go out through that gap right in. And push it all the way out. And then basically push as much as we can out before we get the tool in, even though I just got the tool in. Right, so we're going to get the tool and go right up into those corners and push out those corners, and the same with the top as well. And this is another reason why you need to reverse your stitches at the start and at the end. So that bit where that gap is, we're just going to tuck that up, and I'm just going to bring you up, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a press. So I'm just going to press it all the way around so it's nice and neat. And obviously you can see what's happening here. It's trying to fold upon itself like this. You just need to keep rolling the seam to bring it out. So to roll it, it brings out the seam. And where you've tucked up that seam allowance, you need to make sure it's neat. And just make sure that bit's neat as well. Right, so where the folded edge is, you need to top stitch along 1/8 of an inch away from the top. So going back down. Right, so I've top stitched 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm just going to pop this one to one side and just quickly repeat the same process with the small one. So just bear with me and I'll just quickly sew that. So basically I'm sewing down the two sides, pivoting at the corner, leaving a turning gap at the bottom, then snipping back the seam allowance, and then turning it right side facing out, giving it a good press and top stitching that folded edge. So I've just done that. I'm just going to trim it back. and trim that back as well. Right, so through that turning gap, once again, just going to push out those corners. And once again, on that side. Using my special Chinese pokey tool. Who loves the Chinese? I do. Can I use these? Yes. Not very well, but I can. Some people struggle, I know they do. But, yeah. Right, so tucking that bit in. Just giving it a bit of a finger press. Rolling out those seams. And then I'll just quickly press that over here. Now, folded edge on the top, I'm just going to top stitch along 1/8 of an inch away. Right, so at this stage you need to work out what you want to hold in these slip pockets within your bag. I tend to have a couple of slip pockets within my bag that hold pens, because I'm always, you know, Mary Poppins needs a pen and a pencil, and carry that around with me. So I know full well on this slip pocket I will need to add some pen slots in. So we're going to get the large pocket and pop the small pocket on top. So the two top, right, so you've got your two neat top edges at the top, and I'm putting mine slip pocket in the center. And one thing you will need to do, if you're a bit like me, I like to make sure mine's neat. So I'm just going to make sure this is straight and I've got equal amount on both sides. So I'm going, if you want to go with my measurements, I'm going 2.5 inches down from the top edge of the large slip pocket, and just under 3/4 of an inch each side. I'm just going to pop a few pins in on that to hold it into place. And the first thing I'm going to do is work out whether I want my large slip pocket to also have a centre to make it 2 slip pockets. But because it's a large slip pocket, I actually like to put my tablet, my electronic tablet, inside the slip pocket, obviously in its case. So I like to keep this as it is, this top pocket. But I'm going to divide this pocket up into pen slots and one large slot for my phone to go in. So I'm just going to sew down the 2 sides here on the small slip pocket and across the bottom. So firstly hold it into place. And I'm doing that 1/8 of an inch away, and I'm making my stitch length a stitch length 3. And reversing my stitches a few times at the top of the slip pocket. And then I'll reverse a few times at the top here as well. Now if you've got a handmade woven label, you could have folded it and then put it in this part here and then sewn over the cross. I've run out of handmade labels, so yeah, or you could put it on top of the pocket here, but you'll need to figure out that straight away before you sew this pocket to this large pocket. Right, so I'm going to divide these pockets up. Now, a pen slot is an average inch. So, and that'll be an inch from my sewn line here. So I've got a sewn line here, so I'm going an inch from that sewn line. And I'm just going to draw one line. And I'm going to do a couple of those. Okay, so I'm just now going to, as you can see, I've got some marks there. I'm now going to sew. I'm making sure I reverse stitch a few times at the top here, and they're going to come pen spaces, so get this pen just to double make sure. And obviously that fits in perfectly where the sewn line will be. Need to keep it neat as well. I'm going to keep that because most modern phones are quite wide now, so. And as this bag is not going to be for me, it's actually going to be for one lucky winner over the next giveaway, which is happening next week. So yeah, so I'm just going to sew down those two lines. And I will show you on the camera, and I'm hoping it'll pick up, but you'll notice my stitch has actually gone over. Okay, Kath, don't worry, I'll actually send you one through the actual messenger, so don't worry, I'll message you after if you don't seem to be able to download it. I've actually gone over. It's just to basically reinforce that line, and especially because when you're putting a pen in and out, you're basically putting quite a lot of pressure on it. So I'll just snip that thread off. Thread. Yes, I can't say thread. And I'm just going to sew this line here. And I know my sister will watch later on. She'll take the mic. She'll send me a WhatsApp saying Fred. As in Fred, a gentleman Fred, rather than Fred. Right, so I'm just going to stitch that bit. And I've just gone over just by one stitch. You only need to go over by one stitch. And trim that thread off. Okay. So like I say, you can divide this pocket up as much as you want. So if you're using this bag for university or office and you want to series of pens, you can divide this up all into pen slots if you want to, or you can just divide it up into one straight line in the centre to make it two dividers. It's totally up to you. This is why I've not mentioned any measurements on the actual within the pattern, because I don't know what you're using this bag for. You could be, because I know you can fit a ring, a double size ring binder in the bag. So yeah, you can use it for like university or something like that. So totally up to you. Right, so we're going to pop this to one side for a minute and move over to the zip pocket. Right, so in the pattern, I'll bring you up. Hi. Right, so let's just have one of those. Right, so in the pattern, this is another reason why I want a different filming studio. Right, so in the pattern, I give you measurements to do the letterbox. Now, there is a video that I did, oh God, back in November, and I will put the link to the video in the description of the actual measurements, how to make a number 3 zip letterbox. So a number 3, and I've now got a video up on explaining what the difference is between number 3 and a number 5. That was part 1 of the Wesley tote. A number 3 is where from here to here, measure an inch, and the coil is 3 millimeters. So that's the zip coil in the middle. That's 3 millimeters. And the number 5 is where from here to here measure 1.25 inches, and then the coil in the middle is 5 mm. But for the inside zip pockets, don't use a number 5, because you're adding more to the cost. If you get a number 3 zip, then they're strong enough for an inside zip pocket. I've only ever used for my inside zip pockets number 3s anyway, so this is why all my patterns you'll see, if it has an inside zip pocket, there will be an acquired, you'll need to get a number 3 zip. Right, so the pattern calls for a 10-inch zip, so I've actually got this off the roll and I've cut this at 10 inches, but the actual zip window, the actual pocket length of the zip is 8 inches. So in the pattern, I tell you to get your lining, fold it in half, so you're folding it in half. Obviously your bottom will be where your corners are cut out, and then open it up, and then from that top edge here, you're going to, I'm going to bring that camera up a bit, that's it. From the top edge here, you're going to measure down, and that measurement, I'm not quite sure, you're going to measure down 5 inches. So you're going to measure down 5 inches, and then on that 5-inch mark, we're going to pin the lining of the zip pocket. So I'm just going to bring that down. Okay, and I'm hoping you can actually see that. So this is my top, and I'm just got at this stage a normal quilter's rule, and I'm just going to measure down 5 inches. So that's, and you're going to laugh now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so, and then I've got my zip pocket lining, and as you can see, I've folded it so it's vertically, and I've got a crease in the center. So you're going right side facing up of your lining, and right side of your zip pocket lining needs to be right sides to the actual, let's bring it up, that's it, needs to be right sides to the actual lining itself. So I'm going 5 inches down. Now I'm using number 5 on my rule, which is basically the middle. Well, I'm saying it's the middle. Then we're going to pop this center crease here. Don't know if you can see it. This center piece, this center crease here, and match it up to this center crease here on the number 5 mark, making sure this is straight to the actual rule. And we're just going to just throw in a few pins here. Now this is where, if you aren't going to use the tool that I'm going to use now, which is this tool. Now this tool, I'm hoping you can see this. Right, so this tool has actually got slits in it. Let's bring you back up. Right, so it's actually got slits in it. Now I think this is really genius, because this is going to cut out 3 steps within your pattern, and it means that you're going to be doing a lot more easier. It's going to be a lot more easier for you. I know it's a bit of an expense to have, but trust me, I've been using it since yesterday, and I've realised that I could have had this years ago if Michelle had been selling them. So here you've got a 9-inch zip pocket slot for the top 4 are for your large zips, which is your number 5 zips, and then your bottom 4 is for your number 3 zips. So we're going to use the bottom 3, well, this bottom 3 section. In each of the each box is a measurement, which is the length of the zip pocket that I tell you to use. So for instance, we're using a zip length box 8-inch, so we're going for the third one up. There is a centre mark. Now I don't think you can see it, but there is a centre mark. That is where we're going to pop this on to the zip lining where the crease is. So on the lining, I tell you to measure down 1 inch. So if you actually, if I move that now, if you notice, I've actually just got a little mark here. That's 1 inch down from here to here. Now with that zip tool, I'm going to use this one here. Obviously it's back to front. Now I will put where to get this from in the actual description. And we are going to, my centre mark is there on the slot. I'm really hoping this light is so you can see it. Right, and where that drawn line is that I just did, I'm going to draw the shape, one of my pen right next to where the plastic grip, the plastic is. And there you go, hey presto. You've got your actual letterbox here, and that's easy as 9pence. It's so much easier than having to measure down, draw a line, then measure down again, draw another line and bring up the 2 lines. It's so much easier. I have got an in-depth video coming, but it takes me a long time to edit the videos, so watch out next week. There will be a video coming up and I will post it all over social media on how to use this. And you get this from Bags of Difference group. Michelle's had these specially made for her group members, so yeah, and they're at a very good price, I think. And I'm not going to quote a price until I actually remember. I can't remember how much I paid for it, so yeah. But yeah, that one tool I didn't think I needed, but it's such a lifesaver, especially if you're going to become a big avid bag maker. Right, so back to this. So now I've got my drawn lines. I'm just going to sew all the way around that drawn line, making sure my stitch length is back to normal, which is a 2.4. And I'm just going to reverse stitch. Now I'm coming to where the one corner is. I'm just going to make sure my needle is down, lift up my foot and pivot. Okay, and once again I'm just going to pivot again. And that's basically easy as that. So I've sewn all the way around on that drawn line. Now the next thing you need to do is, now I'll draw this on. Now if you're already a bag maker, you won't need to draw this on because you'll know where the cut line is. So as you can see, I've drawn a triangle here and a triangle there, going into where my sewn lines are, and I've just got a straight line. They're going to come cut lines. So now you're cutting it, you've got to make sure you don't cut it into where you've just sewn. So I fold it where that fold was, and I just snip into it slightly, like so. And that's just so I can get my scissors in, and I'm just cutting in between that top and the bottom sewn line, and I'm cutting to where the tip of the triangle is, the point of the triangle is. Same on that side as well. Now with this one here, you're going to cut at an angle to where that stitch line is, as possible, as close as possible as you can. And you're going to do that on both triangles. Okay, so I've done that. So I've got both triangles cut out here, as you can see. I've not cut them out completely, I've just basically just trimmed to the point where the seam is, the sewn line is. Now we're going to finger press these creases here. This will just help you on the next stage, and just a bit here on the two sides as well. And then we're going to pop this complete lining through that hole to the back. Right, now I'm on the back, so I've flipped over the lining here. And I'm just going to roll these seams a bit, as much as I can, give them a bit of a press, top and bottom, and then I'm just going to take it over to my seam, over to my iron. Hi. Over to my iron, and just give it a bit of a press. Like so. Right, so you'll notice that the front is perfect, but the back, you'll get creases here. Don't worry about those creases, because no one's going to see them at all. If the creases were at the front, you will need to turn it back through the hole and just trim a bit more into those triangles. That will basically stop you having creases on the front of the back of the pocket. But like I say, inside it doesn't really matter, no one's going to see that. So most of you know quilters tape, wash away tape. So yeah, I'm going to put the camera back down. Okay, you're going to flip this over so it's the zip pocket lining up, facing up. And we're just going to run quilters tape at the top and at the bottom of this pocket. Now I will drop a link. People have been asking, because I now ran out of quilters tape from Sewing Quarter, where to get it from. I use Amazon one, to be fair. Most of the time they're bigger rolls and a lot cheaper. So I'll put the link in the description later on of where to actually buy the quilters tape, because they actually don't call it quilters tape on Amazon, they call it wash away tape, because you can use quilters tape to put your bindings on your quilt, and then when you wash your quilts, this will wash away. So you can't use it to hem the school trousers and be lazy. You can't use it for that, but you can use it for quick adhesive before you actually sew the actual zip in. So I'm just going to peel both back those. Take the backing off. Then I'm going to get my zip, pop that onto my work surface with the zip pointing up. You've got to work out which way you want the pull. So whether you want it to go left or right. I like mine going from left to right because I'm right-handed, and I think quite a lot of percentage of people in the world are left to right people. And then we're just going to, got to stand up for this bit, pop the pull in between where the actual opening is. Now, I'm doing this all back to front here. There you go. Making sure that zip is in between that letterbox. So that's the coil of the zip, not the zip pull, because the zip pull should be out. Now, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to do this. You want it neat. Okay, that's as neat as I'm going to get it. Make sure this opens up so you can actually open it up. And we're just going to stitch all the way around this. Now I'm going to be lazy, I'm going to keep my walking foot on, but if you're not used to having your walking foot on all the time, take your walking foot off and put a zipper foot on to your actual machine, because it is actually, well, this one's quite a thin zip foot, but because I'm lazy, I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the actual edge of around, basically. So, and I always start off, I don't know why, but my zip pulls here. I always start off in this bottom hand corner here on the opposite side of the zip pull. I don't know why. It just means that I think it's the less seen when someone's using the bag. Now I'm using a stitch length 3, and make sure you reverse your stitches. You're going to have to pivot at the corners, obviously. Right, so I'm coming where the pull is. You probably can't see that, sorry. I'm coming where the pull is, so I need to lift up my foot, push that zip out the way. Now I use a quick unpick to hook it and then just pull it out the way. And then I'm just carry on sewing. Make sure my actual foot is all the way down. Give that a twist. Making sure your needle is down when you pivot your needle. Now I'm just going to close that zip back up. So I'm just hooking it, as you can see, and pulling that out of the way. And then we're just going to trim back any threads that you have. Close that zip up. Flip this over. Now you'll notice I've got a bit of an overhang here. I'm just going to trim that back. I'm going to use the bluntest pair of scissors that I've got, so that the IKEA ones. I'm just going to trim back this bit as well. Okay, now the bottom edge here, I'm going to bring that up to meet this top edge, and we're just going to pin that there, pin this there, but I'm not actually pinning the lining. I'll show you in a minute. So I'm going to flip that back so the top of the lining's up, and then I'm going to roll. I'm going to start off this side, moving my pull into the middle at the moment, so it just means that the bulk's out of the way. I'm going to roll this out of the way. So I've just got the lining here. So some people fold both pieces of lining in to the middle. So basically you've got, let me just show you. So you've got it like this, and then they will just sew around this part here. So it could be easier for you. It just means that it's keeping the bulk out the way. It just means more a bit of ironing afterwards. So I'll keep it like this so it's easy for you guys to see. So I'm going to sew from the folded edge 1 centimetre or 3/8 of an inch, reversing my stitch, and I'm just going to remove the pins as I go and pivot on that corner. So so I'm just going across the top bit now. You just basically, it doesn't have to be exactly a centimetre seam allowance or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. What you're just trying to do is making sure you catch both pieces. And then I'm just going to pivot that corner and sew down these 2 sides here. So now you should have obviously a creased lining, so you would have to press this out, and you would have a zip pocket that you can use here, and that zip pocket is actually done. So you will pop this to one side. So that will come in effect now next week, because we will make the lining of the bag. So the next thing we need to do is just attach the slip pocket system to the other lining piece. So I will do this off camera, but a bit like what you did with your zip pocket, you will measure down, pop this on, and then just sew all the way around. Now there's no particular area that I tell you to actually sew this on. I just give you a ballpark figure within the pattern, but it's not compulsory. As long as it's in the centre, all you have to do is keep the top part of the slip pocket not sewn, and just sew down the 2 sides and the base here, and then that's your slip pocket system done. Now if you are like me and sometimes you do carry electronic tablet, there's no harm in you, in this larger slip pocket, putting a bit of fleece, so fusing a bit of fleece inside to give it that extra bit of padding. So yeah, so that's for this week's homework. Yeah, so next week we will go for, so next week I will show you how to sew the lining bag together, the inner bag together, but also I will show you how to do the zip closure. Now there is 2 finishes within the pattern of the zip tab. So you can have, now this is going to be back to front, but you can have a fabric zip tab. Now I will actually show you how to do this, because later on next week I have a an edited tutorial on how to actually do the metal zip ends. So I will show you how to do the actual tab, the actual fabric tab next week. I will also show you how to make the the zip bridge closure, which is your main zip, and then we will just finish the bag off. Yeah, so it is an easy bag, and I know some of you have already made it and whizzed past all the way through and gone past me already, but I wanted to do it step by step so people that have never made bags before can easily do it bit by bit and not get so scared. So yeah, if you have any questions, pop them in the description, in the comments below, and I'll answer the questions. Yeah, so I need to start planning, right? So this is where you guys come in. I need to start planning for the next thing that I teach you. So next week obviously is part 4, the last part of the sew along, but I don't know what you want me to teach after that. So if you want to drop some things in the description of what you want me to teach, it doesn't even have to be anything like bag making. It can be learning about a machine or something, or the basics of a machine. It's totally up to you. The only thing I won't show you is how to do all the editing on the computer, because I've had to hire someone, and Amy, I think Amy is still watching, she's doing all like the digital editing for the panels, because I'm so snowed under. Yeah. So yeah, thanks Amy. She's getting paid. But yeah, so that's a big hint of what's coming with the next pattern, and there is what you've all been asking for. So yeah, so that's a big hint. So yeah, so if you keep feeding me what you want me to teach each week, because I can teach you things, but it might be too far in advance for you if you're a beginner. So yeah, keep asking the questions below and telling me what you want to learn, and I will slowly make a list and get down that list. I have got a bit of a list, but I just want to make sure I'm on the right track for you guys. So yeah, next week part 4 will be on Wednesday, because I've now cleared all the orders from the pre-orders of the panels. And once again, thank you ever so much. You kept the kids occupied all weekend. It was great. So thank you ever so much. And yeah, and I'd like to see you all next week. Thanks. Bye.